Hello everybody and welcome to the Just Passing Through podcast. You can see Izu is just behind me there. Just over my shoulder there is Hayama, and you can see just down there with all the windsurfers is Sushi Beach. I am in Osaki Park. Let me just get that sun on me. I am in Osaki Park and I'm going to take a walk over to Hirayama Park because I've just been bit mosquitoes, so I'm going to get out of here. Right, let's go. Okay, today is the 18th of September, it's a Monday, and it is a national holiday here in Japan. It is Respect to the Aged Day. So, as a man of 52 years old, I don't know if I'm old enough to get respect, but I don't care. Because today we are going to talk about those said old ones and how they get looked after here. And I'm going to give you an example. Right, if anybody ever comes over to Japan and you go into a supermarket or you're in a shop, you will see that there is a certain age of the staff that are working on tills, and they're not young. I would say mid to late 60s. There's a lot of them in the 70s, so they're still out there working and putting a shift in. And it's all down to them keeping themselves fit. They do keep themselves fit here in Japan. And having come from the UK last month, there is such a stark contrast that it makes you wonder why folk in the UK and Europe aren't doing the same. The governments aren't telling you to sort your shit out so you have a better life down the line. Now, every morning when I cycle to work, I cycle through a small town called Kotsubo. It's in between Zushi and Kamakura on Coast Road, and there is a baseball field just at the bottom of the hill before you turn right into tunnels. There's a baseball field, and I will cycle past there at about 7 o'clock every morning, and it'll be between 15, 20, 25 pensioners in there doing some stretching, doing some Tai Chi, getting themselves ready for the day, every day. Obviously they'll take some time off if it's really pissing it down during rainy season or there's a typhoon blowing in, but most days, just stop there. See that? Beautiful. But most days, they're in there, stretching, getting themselves ready for the day. Something that you don't see in Europe and the UK. Now, when I first landed in Asia 25 years ago, and the jet lag were playing tricks on me, I was in Bangkok, and I got up, went for a walk at about 5 o'clock in the morning, just for a wonder, because I couldn't sleep. And I was sat in a park, and this woman turned up with a speaker on a bicycle, and she played this plink plonk Chinese music, and a load of pensioners turned up, a really old Asian people turned up, and they did Tai Chi for about half an hour. They all did it quietly, they all knew the moves, they were following the person that were out front, or the woman who'd come with speaker, and they all followed what she were doing. After half an hour, they all smiled at each other, said the goodbyes, and I expect they've been doing that for years, and they were probably doing it for years to come after as well. There. That is Sushi Marina, and over there in the distance is Enoshima Island. It's windy today, so we've got a lot of windsurfers out there. Now I'm using my Android phone today because my SD card on my Osmo Action shit itself. So if you're wondering why it's a bit wobbly, that's why. I'm just now dropping down this hill into the neighbourhood of the rich and famous in Zushi. If you've made your money and you want to get out of Tokyo and have a summer house or a weekend house, they've all got it here. Now, I'm not saying you're going to see any houses when I walk through this neighbourhood because they've got the big trees and the big bushes that they hide their houses behind. Just hide away, counting the money. There. So where that forest is in the distance, where that communications tower is, that's Hirayama Park, that's where we're heading. Okay, so the story I want to tell you is back in 2019, about 2 days before I went to Thailand with a lad, just me and the boy, I got excruciating pain in my shoulder, to the point where I couldn't do anything else but think about this pain. If it had been on the left shoulder, I would have thought it were an heart attack. Shooting pains down the arm, couldn't move my elbow, absolute agony. Nothing worked. I was taking pills, painkillers, nothing worked. I didn't have a chance to go to doctors, so I just got on plane, headed out to Bangkok. Got to Thailand. I had a week up north in Thailand, and then the family turned up. But that 3 weeks, just fucking agony, and I didn't know what it was. But while I were in Thailand, I were using a lot of heat on it, and it kind of eased off a bit, but still, we hired a motorbike, and it were awful. It were awful. When I got back, I went to the doctors, and it turns out I had a frozen shoulder. Jusai kata. No, go Jusai kata. 50-year-old shoulder is what it were called, which pissed me off a bit because I was only 48 at the time. Anyway, I got in to doctors within the day. I got into the doctors within the day, and he started shooting me up with cortisone. So with the cortisone, it just the muscle that was frozen, it just frees it all up, opens it up, and it eases the pain. And that were an instantaneous thing. It wasn't completely gone, but the suffering that I'd gone through that 3 weeks, month, that had more or less eased up at least 70%. And I got that done within a day of going to doctors. So, fast forward, I'm thinking, because I had that done, the frozen shoulder, I was going away with the kid by myself. It was the first time I'd gone on holiday with one of the kids by myself, and I was going to a country that I was familiar with, but it wasn't my country. I'd taken the kids back to Europe by myself. I know Europe like the back of my hand, but I'd never been to Thailand, and I'd never just taken one kid. So looking back, I think it might have been a bit of stress with that had frozen the shoulder up. So got back, got the injections, it eased up slightly, and then I had a course of massages, cold and hot weather treatments on the shoulder, and then I would say after about 8 months it were fine. It hadn't completely gone, but you know, just a dull ache, which I could live with. It doesn't hurt at all unless I would think about it, and then, oh yeah, there it is. It was just a dull ache. So fast forward to July this year, July 2023. I'm going back to Europe for the first time in 4 years, since the pandemic. I'm going back to Europe for the first time in 4 years. I shit you not, we get to the airport in Tokyo, in Narita, get on the airline, and my shoulder starts off again. Not as bad as it was in 2019, but still bad enough where I'm thinking, for fuck's sake. So I'm thinking it's a stress-related thing. Anyway, the entire holiday, I mean, it were all right, but it spoilt it slightly with my shoulder. To the point that when we were flying back from Singapore. 4 weeks later, we're flying from Singapore to Tokyo. It were a 1 o'clock in the morning flight. We were all fucked, and I were really tired. I could not get more than 5 minutes, a 5-minute nap, because the shoulder were hurting and playing up. So I couldn't sleep because of this fucking shoulder. Yeah, nightmare. So got back in September, got on blowout at doctors. That day I'm shot up with cortisone. That day it's eased up. So they sent me away and I'm feeling a bit better. The shoulder's feeling a lot better now. Now on Thursday, I went back to doctors to get another shot. So they shot me up, and obviously it's eased off the shoulder again, because it goes back to a freezing. The shoulder will freeze up again over the 2 weeks, so they've got to keep shooting it to open it up. So what he said to us, the doctor, he says, after you've had this shot, I want you to go upstairs to the 3rd floor and have a word with one of the nurses. And he gave us this piece of paper. We went upstairs, and as you go upstairs to the 3rd floor of my clinic, the door opens and there's this yoga room with stretching poles and stuff like that. And there were a class of people well into their 70s and 80s just in there doing stretching. Now, these people that were in there looked as if they've taken care of themselves all their lives. And I think what it was is elderly exercises, those stretches that you're supposed to do in later life that'll help you with your mobility and your suppleness. And they were all in there, were in there for about half an hour, just stretching. Unbelievable. It's stuff that you don't see in the UK. There's none of that in the UK. So I goes and sits in waiting room. I'm only sat in there for 10 minutes, and I see this old woman on a bed with a visor over the top half of her body. So she gets off, and the nurse comes over and says to me to get on that bed. So I take my shoes off, lay down on the bed, and it's a water bed. It's this water bed. So she looks at my file, and obviously it's my right shoulder that needs the most attention, and she just taps in something on this screen, and my silhouette comes up on the screen, and she told me to lay back just for 10 minutes. Then these bubbles start hitting you, the back of your feet, and work their way up your body. It's like aimed pressure. These bubbles, they were on that cusp. They might have hurt if the water pressure were a bit higher, but they were just taking all the knots out of my body, because I cycle home every night, cycle to work and cycle back, but I could feel the back of my thighs, the back of my calves. It was just working it all out. So the first 5 minutes, these bubbles are just doing my legs and my lower back, working their way up to my back. And then the last 5 minutes, this pressure, these bubbles, are aimed towards my right shoulder, which is what's been giving me shit for the last couple of months. And it spent 5 minutes just attacking the shoulder. I think after about 8 minutes I fell asleep because I was so relaxed. Just fell asleep. Bang out. And then she wakes me up at 10 minutes. And I shit you not, I went in there, I would say a 7 with the pain, and I walked out a 2. I'd had an injection and a massage, and I walked out a 2. It was unbelievable. Now, If we rewind about a year into the pandemic in England, my dad's friend who used to work at British Telecom with also got a frozen shoulder. So I messaged him, told him what I'd got, and he went to doctors, and he was telling me this summer when I went home that he went into doctors. The doctor looked over, had a cursory look up, looked him up and down, and said, "Take these tablets. Just give him tablets. Give him tablets." Didn't even check his shoulder. So he went home, took the tablets. They did nothing. So could not get another appointment. So he then went private. So he went private and he got massages. Now I've already told him that these massages, you need to have them with the cortisone injections. But they're not giving him the cortisone injections because they say they won't work. So he's been going now to this massage place for 3 years. And what he told me was it's eased off slightly since the initial freezing. So they are just fleecing him with massage money every time he goes, not even thinking of giving him a cortisone injection. So he is now $3,000 into this, and at best it's eased off somewhat. Here in Japan, you've got to pay 30% of your treatment, and the treatment's not expensive, but you are getting a fucking top dollar service when you compare it to the NHS. Jesus Christ. I went back to England and my dad has been waiting since Christmas to get an appointment at the doctor's. We went to the doctor's in July, I've been home a day, and she gave him a detailed analysis of what were wrong with him, but there were no physical check. There were none of that. And he were out at door. I've been back in Japan now for coming up to a month, and he's still waiting on his next appointment, his follow-up, and that's just not happening. So the difference in service between here and the UK, everybody who's old or knocking on a bit is better off in this country than they are anywhere in Europe. Now the thing here is you've got to meet your treatment halfway. You've got to eat right. You've got to exercise. You've got to get a decent night's sleep. Now I've going home and I'm seeing my friends, people older than me, still going out, eating, drinking, partying like we used to do in the 90s. And that's not going to end well. That's not going to end well at all. The food that the government is piling on you is just packed with sugar. I saw a bounty that said extra protein added. The fuck is all that about? Extra protein. Reduced sugar. Reduced sugar still means that there's sugar in there. It still means that there's sugar in there. Reduced fat still means there's fat in there. These are the bad fats. Here, as I affectionately like to put it, is they eat food that ain't fucked with. They eat food that isn't fucked with. So you've got fresh fruit and veg. I mean, just down the road here, I would say it's about a 30-minute cycle. You just grow fucking watermelons in summer. Watermelons. So it's easy to get healthy food here. Rice instead of potatoes. There's not that much GMO stuff here. And people know what to eat from school. At the schools, you get a lot of the schools grow their own veg. The kids know how to grow their own veg. That doesn't seem to be happening in the UK. I mean, going to school with fucking Lunchables, the school dinners that the kids eat is fucking awful. And it's all down to they're playing the long game. If they get you sick when you're young with all this shit food, you're going to be sick when when you're older and you're getting on a bit, 50s and 60s, you're going to fuck yourself up with this terrible food. And then they're going to be able to sell you all this medicine. And that's where they make the money back. They make the money back on all this medicine. Whereas here, it's the last port of call is the tablets. It's the last port of call because they keep you healthy. They show you how to keep healthy when you're older. They really do show you how to keep healthy. And that's why it's better here. Now, I'm going to sign off now because I'm just about to walk up to Hirayama Park. You see up those steps there? But for them of you living in Europe, sort your shit out. Sort your shit out. For those living in Japan, we've got it good here. We have got it good here. And try and get some weight off. Try and get some weight off. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. Because when I die, how I want to go is I just want to descend like a little feather into a mill pond. You know, and then sort of shuffle off this mortal coil rather than being fucking Flight 93. Fucking heading into the ground like a fucking dart. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is to try and keep yourself healthy and keep yourself fit. And the way that it's going in England, that seems to be very difficult. So, I know I'm ending on a low point, but that's my 2 cents on Respect the Aged Day. So respect yourself by eating right and not drinking and eating bullshit today. And I will see you all next week. Like, subscribe, pass it on to your friends. Adios, mon frères. See you soon.